Before I do that, and I want to tie that in with something else, because as many of you all know, something is up for me, happened with me recently. And I want to comment on that, and I want to use it in the context of my book, Happy This Year. I received an email yesterday from my agent. This book came out in 2014, but my agent, Steve Hanselman, sent me an email, and it was a copy of one that had been created by Amazon, and they selected the top 10 spiritual self-help books for the year. And they selected my book, Happy This Year, as the #1 recommended book. And they did this big, thank you. Yeah, it's really cool, especially for a book that's not, brand new. And ironically, I've been re-listening to this audiobook, the audiobook of this, because I recorded the audiobook. The funny story behind the recording of the audiobook is I went to my publisher, my audio publisher, who's in Grand Haven, Michigan, and I got there and it was October, and I got off the plane and a cold just tackled me as I was leaving there. Now I'm here to record an audiobook. And they wouldn't let me record. The publisher said, no, we won't let you record. So I had to sit in a Holiday Inn sick for 3 days by myself. Then I went back, recorded the book, and it was a finalist for an Audie Award for the top narration by an author for 2014. So this book has had a lot of celebration. I'm very proud of this book. People ask me which of my books should they read. I've written 5. This is the one, in my opinion, that you should read. But I would like to talk to you about a specific copy of this book. You see, I would not have in any way described myself as a happy person probably 5 years ago. I thought I was. I was successful, I had achieved, I had done things, and of course I would have said I was happy. But inside I was really empty and really sad. And there was a lot of stuff I hadn't worked through, and there's a lot of nonsense that I had believed about myself and about other people. And that year, my older brother got really sick. Kidney stone, I think, at that time. Lived in Atlanta. My older brother is 4 years older than I am. He's gay. And I say that simply because he built 2 of the largest gay nightclubs in the South, which is not an easy thing to do. That's kind of an oxymoron. But very, very successful. But when I went and stayed with him, I noticed that the disease of unhappiness that I have, he had it, and in bigger degrees. He was even unhappier than I was. And he had all of these physical challenges. I mean, lots and lots of different physical challenges. We used to say Chuck was a diagnosis with legs because he had all of these physical challenges. And yet what I noticed spending time with him was the unhappiness, the darkness, the cloud, the seeing the bad, the fearing what might happen. And when things went really, really well, Chuck was unsurpassed at screwing it up. Can you relate to that? I mean that sincerely. He had these 2 huge nightclubs and he needed security for his nightclubs. Well, local security companies couldn't supply enough security guards, so he opened what within a year became the biggest security company in the capital city of South Carolina. But within a year later, it was gone because he always lived too big. Because I think he was too empty inside. So I had this idea about 5 years ago for a book on happiness, and I pitched it to my agent, Steve. And Steve said, I don't like it. No, I'm not going to pitch it. It's a true story. He probably doesn't even realize this. Then about 2 years later, Steve came to me with a concept, a quote that I really, really liked, which is attributed to Lao Tzu, although it's not in the Tao Te Ching, and that's the only writings of Lao Tzu that we have. And he said, you should write a book around this. So I turned around and built the happiness concept around it because it's perfect. It's perfect. It's all about watching your thoughts and watching your words because they become your character, they become your habit, they become your destiny. So all of a sudden, Steve loved the idea. Steve was on his way to lunch with a man named Jeff Bezos. Does anybody know who Jeff Bezos is? Founder of Amazon? Steve threw one proposal in his briefcase. It was mine. And they announced that they were starting a new line of spiritual self-help books. And Steve went, whew. Bezos bought it on the spot. So then all of a sudden, I have to write a book. Let me tell you, that's a lot of work, months and months and months of questioning and staring at a cursor going, ah, 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 ah. But my motivation for writing this book was my older brother. I wanted to write a prescription for happiness that he could follow, one that I had discovered. Now, I hadn't embraced fully everything in the book, but I wanted to write a book that would transform his life if he would read it. And I finished the book. It takes months of editing. Gary Krebs was my editor. He's one of the best in the business. Get a galley of the book. A galley is an unbound copy of the book. It's not a final copy. It's just oh my God, I really wrote a book. They send it to you. But they send them off to Publishers Weekly and to reviewers. That's really why you make galleys. But I got an extra galley this time. And I wrote in it to my older brother, who I love with all my heart, may you find the happiness we were denied as children, but you deserve as an adult. I love you, Will. December 21st of this year, my older brother transitioned into the next stage of being. He died. We flew out there to go through his things. He was 59 years old. It's 4 years older than I am. 3.5. We were going through his stuff, and it was rather cluttery because he'd been sick in the last few years. And I found the galley I had given him. And he'd bent down pages to remember things. All the way up to page 64. And then I guess he just threw the book in the closet where I found it. Somebody asked me what he died of. Complications due to gallbladder surgery, but I don't think that had anything to do with it. Whenever I speak, I always cite a statistic, and that is that people who are happy live on average 35% longer than people who are unhappy. And my joke is, do you know why? They want to. Life was a painful, unhappy struggle for my brother, although you would have never known it. He was very well loved in his community. On January 10th, his church is holding a huge celebration. He ran a homeless center. But inside, he wasn't happy. So I'm going to apologize before we do the stone ceremony. But before you think of what your word is, how happy are you? We've been taught that to be happy is to be selfish. I want you to go and watch Jada Smith's advice to her daughter Willa. It's on YouTube. She says, do you know how hard it is with all of you kids and wanting everybody else to be happy and to support my husband, Will Smith? And she said, what I've discovered is I have to be happy first. I have to fill my own bucket first. You want to be a good teacher? Be a happy teacher. You want to be a good restaurant owner? Be a happy restaurant owner. You want to be a good police officer? Be a happy police officer. You want to be a good husband? Be a happy husband. And for God's sake, be a happy wife, because if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. I realized something with my book. Happiness and fitness are the same. Everybody's already fit to a certain extent. Everybody says, I want to be fit, right? And I always think of my daughter had a teacher who was really, really overweight and adorable. She was like this. And she would always tell her classes, I'm in shape. Round is a shape. So we're all fit to some extent, right? We're all happy to some extent. On a scale of 1 to 10, you already are. The question is, what are you doing to move the ladder higher, the needle higher, knowing that it's the most magnanimous thing you can give to everybody in your life? And just like fitness, it comes down to two things: exercise and nutrition. Exercise and nutrition. I see people at the gym who exercise like crazy and they're not in shape because they go home and swallow the refrigerator as soon as they leave. And I see people who just starve themselves but who aren't flexible. They're brittle because they don't stretch. If we treat our minds as we should optimally treat our bodies, we become happier. What I noticed when I stayed with my older brother that first time is that he slept every night with the television on. CNN. Somebody shout out what I'm likely to hear on CNN in any given hour. Negative. Terror. What else? Death. What else? Politics. That's as bad as death and rape and everything else all put together. And it runs. Have you ever been watching television, falling asleep, and all of a sudden you're in the story? In the dream? He was living this. He was taking this in osmotically 24 hours a day. So he was eating terrible nutrition. Happy people, the people who are posting all that happy stuff on Facebook, you know who they are? They're happy people, for crying out loud, because they're always looking for happy stuff, because then they want to share happy stuff. It's not the negative, unhappy people that are sharing the happy stuff. Happy people gobble happy stuff. You should read my book on happiness, but you should read every other book on happiness. You should read Dan Gilbert's book and Sonia Limbermelsky and all the other great books, because happiness, psychologists call happiness, they don't like happiness, it's too squishy. Subjective awareness. Subjective awareness. You're as happy as you believe you are, and the more you expose yourself to happy, the happier you become. Everything you think you want in the new year, you want it because you think it's going to make you happy. And this is where Jesus Christ was right when he said, seek ye first the kingdom of God, where everybody's happy, and all the good stuff will be added unto you. Everything comes easier when you're happier. You enroll others in your cause. So nutrition, take in happy stuff. And there's only one way to exercise the mind to be happier. That's the good news. The bad news is, it's meditation. Read, what's his name, Wilcox's new book, 10% Happier. He's a ABC he's anchor for ABC News, I think. He had a panic attack on the air, and now he's written a wonderful book on happiness, and it's all meditate. You know why meditation's hard? Because it's hard. It is really hard. There was a commercial when I was a kid for Listerine, the taste you hate twice a day. Anybody remember that? Meditation is the practice you hate once a day. But it's almost like yoga. You drag yourself and get yourself into it, and you hold these poses, and you keep thinking, when is she going to say, okay, let your left arm bring you up? But she's just going, breathe, breathe. It's the same thing, but you got to sit your body down and do the same thing. Yoga and meditation are not the same. Meditation is so easy. You close your eyes. Let's meditate. Close your eyes. As you breathe in, think, I am breathing in. Don't say it. And as you breathe out, think, I am breathing out. I am breathing in. And I am breathing out. Now the key is you set a timer on your iPhone for 1 minute, 5 minutes, or your Android, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and you do it, and you know that it's going to be the hardest thing you get yourself to do every day. But you can't put your mind on happy stuff until you teach your mind to sit and stay. It's just like a puppy. As soon as you start thinking about, I'm breathing in, what was it I had to get at the store? Do I have enough checks in my wallet? You're not meditating. I'm breathing out. Okay? My desire for you is to be happy. That's genuine living. Teilhard de Chardin said that joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. But you got to bring the joy. It's inside of you. So just consider that going forward. I'm not trying to sell books. It's almost free on Kindle right now. They've got it marked down so cheap. And in a little while, I'll tell you how you can get a free copy. But I do want to talk to you about the stones you received and let that bear into your mind. I wanted to show you, this is the Jerusalem Wailing Wall where so many people go. And I want you to realize that you are holding in your hand a stone that was hand carved near Bethlehem. That is not a rock off the street. The interesting thing is, as I mentioned earlier, there are spiritual centers all over the country. And by the way, if anyone needs one, raise your hand right now. Kiana or Mary will bring it to you. Pencils. We may need to share pencils. Yeah, we'll share them. Here's the thing. Here's what's interesting, guys. These are from Bethlehem. They are imported all over the world by a man in Kansas City. His name is Sam Knockham. I wrote about him in the follow-up book to Happy this year. He's one of the happiest people you'll ever know. He broke his back in an accident, laid in bed for 2 years watching the news. He saw how people in Jerusalem were taking the stone, which to them is the bedrock. It's so important. When somebody who's Jewish dies, what do you put on their grave? A stone. It's all about being connected to the ground. And he saw people taking that sacred Jerusalem stone and throwing it at each other. And so his desire was to import it for a spiritual reason. And that's what you hold in your hand right now. And so what we like to do is at the beginning of each year to give you an opportunity to ask your soul, what's my watchword for the year? What one word, if I just kept saying that over and over, peace, patience, serenity, prosperity, strength, abundance, happy, if I just let that word go over and over, it would be like water just washing away what I was and letting me be who I am. So this is your chance. So again, I'd like to ask you to close your eyes, and I want you to see the stone. And I want you to, in your mind's eye, write that first word that came running to your head when we started talking about that. In your mind, not actually, onto the stone. And then I want you to erase that word and to look at the stone anew in your mind and to ask your higher self, what is my word for this year? What one word would spiral me higher in every situation? What one word would I like to have carved in stone and to carry around with me to remind me, simply be this and all will be well? Let us open our minds to that one word. now, knowing that we are one with all intelligence, past, present, and future. It is as if the word were given to us from the future. We say thank you. And so it is. Open your eyes. And when you're ready with a shared pencil, write your word. Now you may, and don't show it to anybody. This is your word. Half the time when I do this, I go, why in the heck did that come to me? Somewhere throughout the year I go, oh, I get it. Maybe that'll be true for you as well. In the beginning was the word, or thought, exactly. Logos means the same thing. We translate it thinking it means word, but it can also mean thought. In the beginning was thought. When the thought became a word, it's something we can hang a hat on. This is your word for 2016. Trust yourself. Trust your higher self. And if you're complete, grab somebody's hand and let's close in prayer. Infinite Spirit, we celebrate all of the many traditions that say that God spoke creation into being. Let there be light. In the beginning was the Word. This is our word to lead us towards a happier future. For that is what we desire, and that is what we wish to share. Thank you, God, and so it is. Amen.